Why do British handicappers dislike Irish trainers so much? This is Ask the Handicapper, and I have a feeling it will be an explosive edition, despite the fact that my special guest is always the chief of the handicapping ranks, Phil Smith. You have literally come from your sick best. You've got your, what's that, Cavonia?
Got my Cavonia chesty cough mixture.
I believe that's just...
It's a ruse to try and...
It's whiskey for a BHA
No, it's
meeting,
a ruse to try and make you go easy on me, Matt.
Well, there's absolutely no chance, Phil, because we thought you only despised Gordon Elliott and ran scared of him, but now we know you loathe Colin Kidd as well. Let's get straight into it. And this, incidentally, evolves around a horse called Rashan, who has been put up £15 by the British handicappers for the Betfair hurdle in the UK. £15. Just think to yourself, how bad, how terrible, how useless at their jobs must be the Irish handicappers if the British handicappers think they have to chuck on £15. The Irish handicappers, Phil, presumably you believe are useless.
Absolutely not. The Irish handicappers do a great job. They have lots and lots of close finishes, hopefully, as we do. And we have
but
got
you
no
disagree
problems
with everything just about that they do?
Well, we sort of don't, actually.
No, you do.
Get some odd occasions where we've got wild differentials, and we'll sort of be...
You describe £15 as an odd occasion, do you?
It's not often that happens, although I will be coming to some occasions where we have got...
Oh, you can always pull out the odd statistic to
differences with and we'll see how those horses...
I would like to remind you straight at the start of this chat that in the world of handicapping, every case is individual, and just because something has happened before doesn't necessarily mean... So tell me, explain to me how a horse like Rashan is £15 better than the Irish handicapper considers him to be.
OK, so the key race is the race at Down Royal on the 4th of November.
Yes.
And in that race, it's a Grade 2 hurdle race over in Ireland. And in that race, Rashan finishes ahead of Apples Jade, Petit Mouchoir, and the fourth horse who was probably expected to finish fourth, and he did so. So the key three are the first three horses. OK, there was a good early pace, but then it really slowed, so you often get sort of strange results in there, so we're not saying we're absolutely convinced at the time. But my man, Dave Dickinson, he had to make a judgment call, because at this point, of course, we don't know if the Irish horses are going to get entered in UK handicap, so we have to have a provisional figure just in case. And he based the race around Petit Mouchoir, who was agreed on 150 in the Anglo-Irish the previous year, back in April. So he made the decision that Petit Mouchoir had performed to 150 again, and it brought Rashan out on 154. Now, he's put two big question marks around it.
I bet he has.
Right? Because clearly this is a progression. Up to then, we had Rashan on 143, right? Which was...
So you already had him £12 higher than the Irish handicap?
Already had him on 143, Rashan.
From what bit of form?
Well, from two bits of form, one from the last year, and also, if you look back...
Oh, hold on, you can't just say one from last... What from last year?
More importantly is look at the race at Punchestown on the 12th of October.
When he was beaten off 131.
Well, he wasn't off a mark at all in that race, because it was not a handicap. Right, I'm pretty sure in that race.
He had a mark of 131, and Hidden Cyclone, who won it, had 142. He was beaten off 131, so you chucked him up, what? £12.
So, but the most important thing about that is look at Hidden Cyclone's
hold on, you seem to be just like glossing over
the fact. I'm trying to explain it.
OK, carry on.
So he's sandwiched between Hidden Cyclone and the Game Changer. Now, Hidden Cyclone, we know, is a jolly good horse, and he goes on and runs a real good race over in England subsequently. So we're pretty happy that Rashan is a sort of 143 horse from that race. But I don't think that's really your point, is it? The big point is, how is he now 154?
That is the thing that no one in the world can understand apart from you, seemingly.
OK. So we've got him on 154. Well, that's based through Petit Mouchoir. So we've got Apples Jade running below her best in that race, and I think most people would agree that that's the case.
OK.
But we've got question marks, so we want to find out more. And of course, that's good for us, because they don't enter Rashan in a UK handicap, so we don't have to commit. And we're thinking, this is the 4th of November already. We're thinking, well, when is this Rashan going to come out and show us, is he a 154, or have we overreacted to this race? And of course, as you're aware, Rashan has actually not come out subsequently. So we're stuck with that decision, except if the beaten horses subsequently show moderate form, because then we can downgrade the whole race and say that maybe Rashan was flattered in that race, and therefore we'll have him on a lower mark. But look what happens subsequently. Apple's Jade wins, Petit Mouchoir goes onwards and upwards. So the only pieces of data that we've got on top of the down roll result is that Apple's Jade and Petit Mouchoir have gone onwards and upwards. So actually, the information we've got on Rashan is as it was at that time. We've kept Rashan on 154. We've not subsequently put Rashan up to 154 because of the exploits of Apple's Jade and Petit Mouchoir. We actually had him on 154 at that time. Did we believe it? We weren't sure. So now let's address the Irish situation, right? Usually in these circumstances, there's a sort of a corridor or an envelope between, a low envelope and a high envelope. And conditions races, as you know, are very complicated and they often have funny results. So we've got two choices. Our lowest potential figure is 139, which is what Noel's gone for. Totally understand that. He's basically, by and large, ignored this race. In effect, he's ignored this race. He's taken it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because clearly, if Apple's Jade and Petit Mouchoir were to come up against Rashan from in a handicapping Ireland, they'd be having to give him lumps and lumps of weight, even though he's beaten them, right?
Well, not if Rashan's got your figure, they wouldn't.
But if he had the figure that Noel has got him in Ireland on 139, he would be getting lumps of weight from Apple's Jade and Petit Mouchoir, would he not?
Yeah, exactly. So what you're saying is the Irish handicapper is clueless.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that he's made a judgment call
at
the time, and he decided to stick with it. And time may show. The honest answer is nobody knows yet.
So you may be wrong.
We may well be wrong.
Because you didn't think the fact that my Mannequin Echo was just 5 lengths behind Petit Mouchoir was relevant to this?
Well, we're always accused, aren't we, of hammering horses.
Rated just 1, 2, 3?
We're always accused of hammering horses that finish fourth and last in the race for finishing fourth and last and getting close to good horses. We sort of left my Mannequinenko on our figure of 127, and he subsequently came out and ran a fantastic race off 127. So we were definitely right with him to ignore the run. But you've got to remember that Rashan is a winner. That's a fundamentally different situation. He has shown the ability that he could win this race. So we've gone between 139 and 154. David has gone 154, totally support him. Noel's gone 139. He may well be right. We did have another alternative. We thought that. Noel thought that. We could have gone in the middle, couldn't we? Do you think we should?
I would say that.
Do you think we should?
I would say that might be a reasonable way to look at this.
Okay. Well, actually, Noel believed on his handicapping experience of 139. David believed on his handicapping experience of 154. Right? To go halfway would be 2 wrongs, wouldn't it? And what do 2 wrongs make?
Well, on this occasion, anything right might be better than what we've got.
2 wrongs actually make a wrong, right? 2 wrongs make a wrong. For them to both bottle out, they're professional handicappers, these guys, and we're there to be judged. Noel will have this horse on 139 if and when he runs in a handicap in Ireland, and he will have to take that on the chin, won't he? And similarly, we have the situation here. Now, let's just take it a step further.
I thought you might.
Let's take it a step further. Because the horse is entered in a handicap in Britain, and we're guessing a little bit. Because, of course, this horse has not...
A little bit. £15 worth of guessing.
This horse has not run since the 4th of November, right? And we have a maxim in handicapping. If in doubt, we favour the majority at the expense of the minority. So we got one horse here who we're not sure about in the Betfair hurdle. So we owe it to all of the other horses, right, if we're not sure, to go high. So let's just imagine what would have happened if we'd have gone 139, the same as Noel, which you can easily justify. And Noel, I've spoken to him, he makes a real good case to justify the 139, and I totally understand his logic. Let's say we'd gone 139, and this horse had run at Newbury and won by 8 lengths, 10 lengths. We'd have come into the parade ring afterwards and said to you guys in the press, it's all Noel's fault. We really wanted him higher. But Noel said 139, so we've gone with that. We'd be absolutely caned by the press and the media for doing that. We have a responsibility to British racing and to British trainers. And I haven't heard too many complaints from British trainers about Rashan getting a 154.
No, because you've ruled out him having any chance of winning.
But let's see what happens when he runs in Ireland.
I'm not sure.
And then we'll reassess him.
Yeah. I'd like to put this scenario to you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
You're going down the dual carriageway, yeah? You're not absolutely sure whether the speed limit is 60 or 70. Speed camera comes up. You're not sure. Do you go under 60 or do you just kick on and go 70 and say, well, I'm not sure, but I'll just stuff it and go for it?
I try never to break the speeding law.
Exactly.
So I'd be low.
So if you're not sure, you usually play safe and leave alone.
Well, that's what you do road. But I don't think horse handicapping is quite the same as the highway code.
Yeah. There's a bigger picture here, isn't there?
There is.
There is. There is the fact that you have no respect for the Irish handicapper.
I've got the utmost
You have no respect for him.
He's been my friend for 20 years.
Friends,
and I have the utmost respect for him.
Of course he's your friend, because you see him as someone that you can mock professionally and clearly consider him to be not doing his job. This all started with Diamond King, didn't it? Because not only do you not...
And we were lucky there because we were proved right.
Not only have you mullered Rashan for no respectable reason. Everyone could understand you popping 5, 6, 7 pounds on Rashan.
What, and going halfway?
Exactly.
As a compromise.
No one understands you going 15 pounds. But of course, it's not just Rashan. That is just the tip of this very slippery slope that you've gone down.
Okay.
Because you, Phil Smith, and your cronies, you are scared of Gordon Elliott. In fact,
hang on. Rashan is trained by
as I've just said, you need to listen when you're on a TV show. You are scared of Gordon Elliott. Now, hate is not a word that I would use on this show, but you loathe him. You despise him.
I really like him.
You despise Gordon Elliott because he is beating you at your own game. You were sick and tired of Gordon sending over horses here that were winning handicaps, making you look idiots, effectively. So what you've done is you've smashed him. You've just said, OK, Gordon, bring a runner over here, we will smash you. Mega fortune. You've chucked, what, 14, 13, 15 pounds on that for no specific reason. And then, on average, you smash Gordon Elliott or handicap horses with at least, well, getting near £6. Willie Mullins handicap horses, you put up an average 2.7 to £3.
And do they win?
Well, Willie doesn't really win any handicaps. But that's beside the point. You are so scared of Gordon Elliott that you would marry Sir Mark Prescott rather than take on Gordon Elliott. You just loathe the man. You despise him. You are sick of him beating you.
Well,
How scared are you of him? I mean, are you quaking now? Is the word Elliott making you quiver?
Not really. I get on really, really well with Gordon.
Oh, like you do with the Irish handicap, your friend?
Yeah. Well, we're not friends, I wouldn't think.
Your friend that you go to dinner with, but then you muller him in the studio.
But I get on pretty well with him, I have to say.
How scared of Gordon Elliott are you?
Not in any way scared.
So why do you keep shoving up all his horses?
Well,
because you think he's going to get the better of you.
Well, we don't. Let me give you an interesting example. Look up a horse on your machine called Wizzy Rascal. W-H-I treble Z-E-Y.
I could just imagine you listening to him in the car on the way home. Yeah. Okay.
Wizzy Rascal.
Yeah.
So this horse was 111 in Ireland.
Okay.
And we put it in at 10 days ago, fortnight ago, on 116, and it absolutely sauntered home. So that's £5. Well, that doesn't show we were scared of Gordon Elliott putting up £5 more. I mean, that would be less than the average amount that the horses are different, isn't it?
Right, so you picked out one horse in the whole of the
there's
industry.
Plenty of others. Gordon has plenty of handicap winners over in Britain, right? So if we were scared of him having them, surely we'd be hammering all of these horses.
Do you think he has as many now, statistically, as he did, say, 2 seasons ago, when you weren't hammering him? When you weren't so scared?
I suspect his percentage is as good, but he doesn't have as many winners, and I'll tell you why. He's got better horses, and he used to come over and mop up lots and lots of races in the north, 0 to 100s, 0 to 105s, and 110s, 115s. And he generally doesn't frequent those areas quite so much anymore, because he hasn't got so many 0 to 100, 0 to 110, 0 to 120 horses.
Explain Mega Fortune.
So he doesn't come. Are you happy with that answer?
No, I'm not. It's just waffle. Explain Mega Fortune. What is going on with Mega Fortune? Why is this horse being mullered like Rashan? Here he is. Does he look like Pegasus? No, he looks as slow as an old boat.
This is
him in finishing. I'm no surprised you actually don't know what he looks like, Phil. You've probably never seen him. You just saw the word Elliott and shoved him up 15 pounds.
I haven't ever did.
So I'm no surprised you have no idea which horse he is. He's the one in third. I appreciate the British handicappers will never have seen him before.
Yes, we will.
They'll have seen Mega Fortune. Oh, Elliott up 15. Doesn't matter what he looks like. But anyway, he's that very slow horse in third.
OK.
You can carry on now.
This is the Leopardstown race. Yep. OK, so from the Leopardstown race, we've got Mega Fortune from there on 146. And we've got him running for 145 on his previous run at Fairyhouse, and we've got him running 146 on his run before that at Down Royal. We think he's very consistent. Right. He's running well in Group 2s and Group 3s. Whether he's going to be much better than that, we're not so sure. Remember, this horse is a juvenile, right? At the moment, we're still sort of finding our way with the juveniles, the relationship between English and Irish juveniles.
Yeah,
there's a long way to go yet. What generally happens is that they'll come together at Cheltenham and we'll find out more about them. But at the moment, hardly any juveniles from Ireland have run here, and hardly any of English juveniles have run over in Ireland. So we're very much, you know, testing the waters there. And again,
you definitely are testing the waters.
When in doubt, we have to protect our handicaps, and if we've got some doubt, we have to make sure that no horses will come from another jurisdiction and make our handicaps a mockery.
So you saw Neon Wolf at Haydot the other day, one of the most impressive young horses a lot of us have seen. Admittedly, there might be a weight for age scale here, which I'm sure you will bring in, so I'll slip that in before you...
There will be a weight for age...
Before you try and catch me out.
There'll be a weight for age of £11.
£11. OK, so we're
actually,
talking...
So he would be getting £13 from Neon Wolf.
£13. Would you fancy Mega Fortune, therefore, in a match with Neon Wolf, in a handicap, getting £13? You think that horse we've just seen could beat one of the most exciting novice hurdlers in the country?
I think it'd be close to a dead heat.
Well, of course you do, because you've put that £13 in there. But I'm trying to get, like, some reality out of you now. Like, just say you're having a bet. I know you're not allowed to. Don't say that, because I know you're not allowed to. Let's just say you were, hypothetically. And they were even money the pair. Would you like your £10 on Neon Wolf or Mega Fortune?
No, I'd like it on a spread for a short distance between the two. A close run thing.
I'll ask the question again.
No, you're not going to get...
You can have a win or lose scenario.
You're not going to get a different answer.
So you can't answer because you know you want to back Neon Wolf, and if you say Neon Wolf, you will be made to look silly.
My real answer is...
Neon Wolf.
I don't know.
Well, hold on, you must know because you've given them ratings.
I don't know who would win. That's the answer. You answer me who would win, I honestly don't know.
Right.
And isn't that our job, to set a puzzle?
So you don't have an opinion?
That the puzzle finds, the country find difficult to solve.
Do you have an opinion who would win?
I honestly don't know.
But I don't know who's going to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup, but I have an opinion on it. So you have no opinion on this match?
I'm hoping for my...
I mean, let's take the Pegasus World Cup.
I'm hoping
California Chrome or Arrogate for you?
We're talking two different things. We're talking handicaps, non-handicap.
OK, let's go backwards. Let's take the King George. Did you not say on this show Q Card would win the King George?
I thought he did.
Did you not have an opinion?
I thought he would.
OK, so you thought King George would win, Q Card would win the King George. Do you think Neon Wolf would beat Mega Fortune getting £13?
In a handicap?
Yes.
No, I'm not prepared to comment on handicap's success. I'll comment on non-handicap success.
I feel like I've gone on the line again.
You've absolutely... I'm not answering that question because I don't know.
But you did know who you thought would win the King George?
I thought that Q Card would win, correct.
OK. Still Mega Fortune. Long term, could you see that rating coming down?
Well, it might. But you see, we've got Land of Hope and Glory on 150-something. We've got Baporm on 149. Time may show that they're too high. But these are the horses that surely will be running not in the Fred Winter. These horses will be running in the Triumph, won't they? And then will we not find out masses more about them? I mean, at the moment, these handicap marks, and we had to give Mega Fortune a rating because Gordon, as is quite within his rights, he entered it in a handicap. Right? So all of the other trainers from the Leopardstown race, Baporm, Land of Hope and Glory, they'll now have a rough idea of where we rate their horse because they know that Mega Fortune we've given 146 to. Is that figure set in stone for good? Of course it's not. As more data comes in, as more races get run, we have more information, and especially with juveniles and with 2-year-olds, they're fluid. They go up £6 or £7. The race gets put up £6 or £7 on a regular basis. That happens all the time with juveniles and with 2-year-olds. You have to accept that. But we were put on the spot with Mega Fortune. Gordon wanted a handicap mark now. We've given him a handicap mark now. It might end up higher, it might end up lower. Who's to say?
Diamond King, Mega Fortune, Rashan, many others of Elliott's.
Well, Rashan's not his.
No, many others
you
of
keep
Elliott's.
including him, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's part of this discussion, Phil.
Well,
and I keep saying he's not.
Hang on, Wizzy Rascal, yeah?
No.
Is he in the mix?
Don't play me at my own game. Rashan, trained by Colin Kidd.
Yes, go on.
Yes. Mega Fortune, Diamond King, many others of Elliott's.
Some others.
Many others. Many others in 2016 went up to about 5.7 to 6 pounds in that stable when they came over here. My show, I can finish my question. How scared, therefore, are you of the fact that the Irish handicapper is getting this totally wrong?
Not in any way scared. And I'll tell you why. Right?
Do you think he's getting it right?
Well, he's getting it right for Ireland because look at his results. He has fantastic results in Ireland. But he's got his own horse population and we have our horse population.
But that means, on average, Irish horses are rated, in your book, and some of them, 10 to 15 pounds higher than they should be. That there's slippage.
Well, hang on a second. He has his horse population and we have our horse population. And both seem to work pretty well. The difficulty comes, obviously, when we have cross-Irish sea movement. Now, how many UK horses have run in Irish handicaps in the last 6 months? Basically zero. But lots and lots of Irish have, right? Masses of them. And so we've got to make sure that we keep our Irish figures on a regular basis. And my handicappers assess every Irish race that's run over there. Hurdles, chases, bumpers, the lot. We put them all in. Now then, over the whole season so far, right, the UK strike rate, your chances of winning a UK handicap is broadly 10%. You've got about a 10% chance. What do you think the Irish strike rate is in UK handicaps in that time?
I've no idea.
11%.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think it's a statistic that you've chucked at me.
Well, it's absolutely true. So we aren't getting it that wrong, are we? I mean, English trainers will probably listen to that and say, well, why isn't it the same? It should be the same. But of course, there's lots of, you know, on a daily basis, certain UK runners who are probably no-hopers, they're out the handicap. You don't get too many Irish horses sent over here who are out the handicap. So all of their horses, you know, if they're going to send them all this way, they pretty well fancy them. So I'm good with having their success rate a little bit higher than our success rate. I've got no problem with that. I think it's perfectly reasonable. But 11%, it's not 2%. We're not absolutely hammering all these horses. Right? Irish trained horses at Cheltenham, they've got a sensational record over the last 10, 15 years.
You put up Modus, £10 of the Lanzarote.
Let's just continue with this. Right? Well, can we look up a horse called Master Ruffit?
We can. I'm looking it up now.
Brilliant. And when you look up Master Ruffit...
OK, let's just explain to the viewers. This is Neil McKnight, the trainer.
Yep.
Owner Norman McKnight, a 9-year-old gelding who has won 2 from 14.
Yep. So he's pretty successful. So he's winning around 15% or so, isn't he, of his generally of 15 or 16%, right? So Master Ruffit comes over to Ayr, and he runs off a mark of 118. Okay, his mark in Ireland at the time was 105. Didn't stop him winning. £13 higher. Where's the problem with that? Can you look up a horse called Mia's Anthem?
Hold on.
That was the situation.
Hold on.
He was 105.
He ran second at Ayr off 118, and then he ran third at Ayr, admittedly last beaten the distance off 125. You could actually argue he was well handicapped off 118.
Well, hang on a second.
I don't know about this Irish rating. I mean, he ran 3 times since that, was pulled up, and then beaten so many lengths that you literally couldn't have counted them.
We didn't. That's why he ran off 119.
I'm not absolutely sure what your point is.
Well, my point is that having a horse 12, 13, 14, 15 pound higher in the UK than it is in Ireland is not a barrier to victory. Right? Look up a horse, please, called Mia's Anthem, won at Aintree.
We do have to go for a break, Phil.
We have to go for a break. Well, we'll talk about Mia's Anthem
we have to go for
when we come back.
We may, if I decide to. I'm not sure you're quite understanding whose show this is. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. You're watching Ask the Handicapper. Can we just turn camera 2 straight to this man? Have a look at this man. That is the hello. That is the face of a man who is terrified by the tub, Gordon Elliott. Literally quaking, shivering, waiting for those Cheltenham handicap entries to come out and just shoving them all up £15 when they come through.
Doesn't seem to stop them winning.
Yeah. Do you actually look at the horse ever, or do you just look at the trainer and just see the word Elliott and you think, OK, well, I don't need to look like that horse Mega Fortune, which you'd never seen before, that we just showed, with clear signs that you just looked at the trainer. You'd never actually seen the horse ever. Do you ever look at the horse?
Well, surely if we've hammered Gordon unfairly for Mega Fortune, have we not equally hammered the other 2 trainers of the horses that were ahead of him?
What I would like to ask...
We haven't, and we don't, I mean, I don't know who off the top of my head who they are. But presumably, if Gordon's hammered for finishing 3rd, they must be hammered for finishing 1st and 2nd, mustn't it?
I still can't get over the disdain that you have over the Irish.
Who are they? Who were the ones who were 1st and 2nd? No, off the top of your head, who were they?
Oh, sorry, in which race?
The Mega Fortune race when he was 3rd. Who were the 1st and 2nd trainers? Who were even more...
Land of Hope and Glory and...
you see?
Oh, Willie Mullins.
Clearly we don't look at trainers.
Land of Hope and Glory and a Willie Mullins horse, anyway.
OK.
Which is not bad off the top of my head.
Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Better than I would do.
Had you?
Better than I would do.
Had you? At least I look at the horses, while you just look at the trainer. There was something else you wanted to say to me about Rashan, which I think...
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting case, obviously, that we've got... You know, we don't often get such a wide discrepancy. It probably will happen...
But you do, Mega Fortune.
It probably happen...
Diamond King, so you do.
It'll probably happen 10 times a year, right? I would say. We get a pretty double-figure discrepancy, right? Generally, those horses, when they come over, have actually got a pretty good record of success, so we're comfortable with having that situation. But of course, presumably now, judging what the trainer has said, the horse will run in a handicap in Ireland. So it'll be fascinating to see what he can do off a mark of 139 in Ireland. Who's to say that he finishes 10th? Who's to say that he wins by 10 lengths? We'll just have to wait and see. But whatever happens, we'll then have more information. And I go back to, that was our big problem. We had very, very limited information about the horse. He hasn't run since the 4th of November, whereas the 2nd and 3rd horses have both come out and won since the 4th of November. So that takes us to a higher figure. When he comes out, I mean, the question is, where's he been since the 4th of November? He could have run...
He's been gearing up for the Betfair Hurdle, but then you gave him a mark that the trainer thought, you know what, I cannot possibly win a race off that mark, I'll stay at home. You've actually denied Mr. Kidd the chance of winning a big pot.
Well, because I go back to...
Despite the fact he's been an honest trainer, run his horse against horses that he basically couldn't beat. But he did, because it was one of those one-off freak occasions where you beat the horses, and then you have, having told us all, time and time again, run your horses in conditions races, we won't take it literally.
If you don't win.
Oh, now there's a proviso, isn't there?
No, I think that was...
So if you do win...
We didn't take my Manikinenko as literal, did we, in 4th place, last place?
Well, you put it up £3, actually.
We didn't.
Well, it ran off a £3 high
He was already that high from a previous race in Britain.
Are you sure?
He's already off 127.
I'm not so convinced.
He was definitely 127.
Right, well, you should have...
We could have had him 140 odd.
Well, clearly.
That, but we didn't want to. We left him on 127, and where did he finish?
So you mullered the winner, but you didn't care about the 4th?
Well, the winner has won a grade 2, right? At least he's got the money in the bank, and we have no...
Oh, so because he's got the money, you're stopping him from winning any more money? That's it, is it?
Who's to say
because I cannot believe... Just repeat that. Because he's won some money, he's not allowed to win any more.
I didn't say that.
That was what you were suggesting,
that's
Mr.
your
Smith.
interpretation.
It was, and I think it was everyone else's interpretation.
No, it's an incorrect
BHA will be going crazy at this minute.
No, they won't be going
crazy. They will. Mountie will be jumping up and down like a tiger. He'll be so worried. Just repeat that. Because he's got the money, he now cannot be allowed to win any more money.
Oh, I hope he comes over and wins. Well,
he won't, because you've stopped him and he's not coming over.
Nothing would make me happier
than
to see this horse come and win.
Can we play that back,
off 154.
Wow.
Nothing would make me happier.
He's got the money.
Here's the important point about him. Let's see what happens when he runs in Ireland. We'll have more data. If he struggles, we'll change our mind on the 154.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter, does it? He's got the money.
But the other thing as well is, there's probably 25 British trainers overjoyed that he's not coming off 139.
Oh, right. So as long as we've kept the British trainers happy.
Well, they're my first responsibility.
So you've handicapped him to keep your friends
No,
happy in the industry?
When
Hold
in
on,
doubt,
he's got the money, so we'll kill him off, and we've kept our mates over here happy. What is going on, Philip?
I don't think many trainers would call me their mate.
Oh, my goodness.
When in doubt, remember the maxim?
Your computer's going ding, ding, ding. Is that BHA?
When in doubt, you favour the majority at the expense of the minority. There'll be 3 or 4 Irish trainers in this race as well, won't there? I think they'll be happy, won't they?
Well, it sounds like you're keeping everyone happy apart from Mr. Kidd.
When in doubt, you favour the majority at the expense of the minority. Everyone is in doubt. Just before
Do you favour the majority when you compress your Grand National weights?
I think so, yes.
Do you?
Can we just come back to this?
Can you favour the good horses?
Can we just come back to this horse?
Are you favouring the majority then?
I'd like you to give me a figure.
Oh.
Noel's 139.
Yes.
Our 154. Where's the Chapman figure?
You know what? I think I would have used what I would call a reasonable... Your computer is going crazy. I can just imagine all these emails going, BHA, Nick Rust, BHA, Mounsey, Handicapping Department. Phil, stop now. Have you been silenced? I would have said that sense could have prevailed here.
Do you know what somebody's emailed me? Master Ruffett, rated 105 in Ireland, ran off 118 at Ayr and won 13.
I love the fact your buddies are watching this and trying to come to your defence.
Somebody called Mark Ollie.
It's fantastic that your friends are feeling that worried about your condition.
Angus Milan, rated 109 in Ireland, 118 in Britain.
Oh, another example someone's managed to find. Well, it's good to have mates out there watching the show. If I was you, I'd take half a bottle of that Cavonia Chesty Cough and open it.
I'm being bombarded with examples of Irish horses winning off significantly higher marks when they come. I'd love Mr. Kidd to come, right? If he couldn't be competitive, we'd drop him then and he'd be able to get a lower mark in the Cheltenham Festival.
Coming back to your question, my gut feeling
what's your figure?
Would have probably put him up £6.
145.
Something like that. But I'm no handicapper and I would not claim to be.
So what you're saying is, you have an Irish handicapper who's been doing the job for 25 years, very experienced.
Who you hold in disdain.
Which I absolutely don't. Who makes a judgment call and comes up with 139. You've got an English handicapper who worked for Raceform for goodness knows how many years and been working for us for 20 years, who makes a judgment call, and they're both wrong, and what you should do is cop out and go somewhere in the middle.
No,
That's what you've said, isn't it? You cop out and go somewhere in the middle.
I would never cop out.
So you're covering your options, aren't you, really?
No, I'm taking an intelligent view of a race.
Maybe Noel's a bit low, and maybe the English are a bit high, so I'll cop out and go somewhere in the middle, and everyone think I'm a nice guy.
I know you're carrying on now because you think you're on a winning streak.
I'm on a winning streak.
But you're really not.
I am.
Because I'll take you right back to the start of our conversation, where you said to me, Philip Smith from the British Horse Racing Authority, Chief Handicapper, you said to me, we had a look at this race, and we didn't just put one question mark next to it, we put 2.
We did.
Which suggests to me that you had no idea. And therefore, for you to treat my figure with contempt is contempt itself.
Yeah, but there's a logic to ours. We decided to base the race through Petit Mouchoir. Right? We said, OK, Petit Mouchoir, he was 150 in the Anglo-Irish at the end of last year.
But if you'd had decided to do that, you'd have shoved my Manic and Echo up £5–10.
No, because we're very reluctant to do that with horses that finish last. For goodness sake, the horses finished last. I mean, it's a
4-runner race.
It'd be a bit harsh to put a horse up for finishing last.
Maybe in a 25-runner race, but this was 4 runners.
So what?
There was hardly any distance between first and last.
It's a falsely run race. And so,
exactly.
Which is why I can understand.
Thank you. Just repeat that.
It's a falsely run race.
Once more.
It's a falsely run race.
That's all we need. That's all we need. And it was a falsely run race that you shoved the winner up £15.
And that's why I'm not prepared to say that Noel is wrong. He may well be right. But you're definitely wrong to cop out and go in the middle. Because there's no logic in that. That's just a bit of a mealy-mouthed halfway house, isn't it?
OK, there was an important question that came through about, you were talking about 11% and 12% and all that kind of thing. You slightly lost me at that stage. I was just lost my way. Longshot Scott says, does the 11% include horses who've been purchased from Ireland to UK,
no,
then ran off their mark?
No, it's purely Irish train.
Are the Irish horses rated higher over here because you think them better than our horses in general, says Carl Davis?
No, I don't think that's either. I think we've sort of covered this in the past. We've got a situation where there's a finite horse population in Ireland, there's a finite horse population here, right? It all started many, many years ago because of weight for age, which we're not going to go back into now because we've covered that topic on a number of occasions in the past. So historically, the Irish levels have always been lower, and we've had to do a variety of different things for the last 12, 13, 14 years. I mean, my team you've got to remember what they do. They voluntarily assess every Irish race to try and get all of the Irish horses on a competitive mark when they come over here, right? For years and years and years, you go back 20, 30 years, the English handicappers never used to assess any Irish races. They just take the Irish rating as gospel, which was fine, except that they won a hell of a high percentage of their races. So my team give themselves extra work because they are wedded to the idea of competitive racing in Britain, and they want all the horses to have an equal chance. That's really quite an important point. So, you know, I know we sort of laugh and joke and say, you know, we're scared of this, etc., and we're trying to put this up and that up to stop them winning. The figures show that if we're trying to stop them winning, we're not doing a very good job, because 11% is higher than our percent.
But we already know that. That's why you're so scared of them now, and you're just chucking on these ridiculous amounts.
Because we're worried about it being 12% and 30% and 40%.
Well, you are just literally terrified.
But the reality is that when they come over here, they're pretty competitive, aren't they? I mean, wasn't there a race at Ascot just before Christmas where there were 3 Irish horses, and I'm guessing off the top of my head, did they finish 4th, 5th, 6th or something like that?
How many of those were trained by Gordon Elliott?
I have no idea. Again, that just shows we don't look at the trainer.
You don't look at the horse either. It's beginning to wonder what you do look at.
Absolutely look at the horse.
Still, as long as they've won the money, it doesn't really matter what they do in the future.
The important thing is that's a Grade 2 race, and this horse has already got a 143 in the can from previous year. He'd run well on the flat. How are we not to know the horse had improved? But of course, there's the key thing about every one of these horses. When we make a decision, what's the most important thing a trainer can then do? Run it and prove us wrong.
We're going to take another break. We're going to talk about other things, thank God.
Okay.
After this short break, we are literally going to change tack here on Ask the Handicapper. Welcome back. This is Ask the Handicapper. Very, very good tweet came in about Campiador. Sam, is it worth me backing Campiador in the county hurdle, or is Phil going to put it 3 stone higher when the weights come out? Can you tell us in advance, Phil, whether you're going to up Campiador by about £20 so that Sam can decide?
Well, he obviously must have been entered in a handicap in this country, because we did publish a rating of 155 on the 6th of December, so I'm guessing that he must have been entered in the Ascot handicap hurdle just before Christmas. Is that the Ladbroke, I think, isn't it? And we published 155. And you have to say this horse is clearly talented, but he's blooming unlucky, because he fell at Cheltenham running off 141. We moved him to 146. He was published 146 here. We've subsequently dropped the level of that race down a couple of pounds, so we now think that was maybe only worth a 144. But then he goes to Fairy House and clearly was going, you know, like the winner, and we've now got him on 100. We then had him on 155. The Fairy House race hasn't worked out wonderfully well, and we've dropped the level a pound. So Campiador, if he were to come back here, would be 154.
And what's he in Ireland?
No idea.
It's about 120 probably. Quite a lot of tweets coming through. We're going to rattle through these. These are going to be a bit random. Phil, can you look up a horse called Long Cool, please, on your machine? Mm-hmm. Mike says, 4-year-old hurdle, 11th to Janet Hereford. No mark given to winner Long Cool, but the 2nd, 3rd and 4th have all been given a rating. Explain, please.
I'm struggling to find it.
That's right. Long Cool, Hereford.
Is it all one word?
2 words. C-A-L-L, yeah.
Ah, long. C-A-L-L?
Oh, cool.
Call, you mean?
Cool, yes. As in, I'm going to call you.
I thought you said cool, sorry. OK, Long Cool. Right, no rating's been given to him. Well, he's an Irish horse.
But hold on, did you handicap the Irish horse?
Well, we give him a performance figure, yeah, but we don't actually give him a rating.
OK.
Because we'd only give the Irish horse a rating. But he would be an interesting horse, wouldn't he? Because we've only really got one measurable performance. He's run 4 times, but there's only one measurable performance, so we actually almost certainly wouldn't give him a rating. OK,
loads and loads of messages here. This comes in from...
What did the questioner want to know about him?
Just what his rating would be.
OK, well, we wouldn't give him a rating, basically, because he's run 4 times. The first 3 were abysmal, and then he wins a race, so he's only got one measurable performance, so that's a refuse.
All you need to know is that whatever he's on in Ireland, he'll be £30 higher here. The final flight. When a horse arrives from France, having had numerous runs across the Channel, how do the team of handicappers fairly assess the form of a particular horse when they don't follow the form in depth on a regular basis? Del Arco and the Greatwood, Lammy Surgeon and Jerry Field, and more recently, Kepage spring to mind of horses who are clearly well ahead of their handicap marks. Should there be conditions races or something similar when non-novice French imports have to run to give the UK handicappers a fair chance of handling the horse correctly?
When I think I'd probably be more interested in changing that rule the other way around and make novices run in the UK, because you tend to know a little bit less about them. But I think we're pretty good with that rule. One of my team, Dave, he does all the French ratings from the tracks. He does Auteuil, he does Angers, he does Pau, he does some of the races from Cannes-sur-Mer. We absolutely can't possibly do all the ratings from some of the minor tracks. But as well as that, we've got real good faith with the French handicapper, very happy with his levels, very similar to ours. So, you know, he'll tell us what the kilo rating is. We'll look at any figures that we've got and we'll come up with an appropriate figure. Who were the horses that he wasn't happy with?
Lemmy Surge was one.
Because?
I don't know. He doesn't say. Doesn't go into big reasons.
Well, I mean, you'd like to hope that some of the horses, when they come over on a French racing, will win, and some of them won't. You know, excuse me, you'd like them to have a sort of a reasonable strike rate. You know, we're not here to stop horses from winning. We're here to try and give them an equal chance. I don't think there's...
You're here to stop them if they've won a bit of money.
I can't remember too many French imports coming over and sluicing up in a handicap first time.
No, although most of them aren't novices, aren't they? So they tend not to go through the system quite like a normal horse.
Some do, some don't, you know, but I think we're pretty good. We're pretty good with it.
Paul Nicholls, Cheltenham Festival.
Oh, Petit Soin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't really sluice up, did he? But
how far did he win by?
A very narrow margin.
So that was at Cheltenham, wasn't it?
It was. Festival.
Okay, yeah. So
March every year.
Absolutely. March. He won by neck.
He did. As I said, he didn't sluice up.
At 9-1. So if people thought we'd let him in light, they should have filled their boots, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
9-1 for a horse that's chucked in.
Okay, you made your point.
Grief, 9-1.
Look, okay, you've won.
Were you on? Were you on?
What?
Were you on?
No. I was on the Irish horses who were mullered. Will the BHA be raising the novice Forest Behan, 140, on the back of waiting patiently, winning again, of course, beating Politologue the other day? Forest Behan, are you mullering that one?
Well, let's just have a little bit of a talk about collateral raises and drops, which we've been down this road many times before. Right? By and large, form will not work out probably 75 to 80% of the time, and it will work out 20 to 25% of the time. Right? So therefore, most of the collateral changes we make will be drops. Now, if we didn't make any collateral changes, we'd have some really crazy anomalous situations where horses were well in, badly in, and so on. So we really should be doing that. So people will often say, oh, it's not fair, he's gone up for standing in his box. But what we're trying to do is make competitive handicaps. And actually, trainers are net beneficiaries of that system because they'll have a lot more drops than they will rises. So what's the name of the horse that we're talking about? Politologue?
Forest Behan. Forest-Bihan.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid everything's stopped.
Oh dear.
So.
Okay, we'll get back to that one in a minute. While we hope that it starts again.
Your system's broken too.
Okay. Any old excuse now, even blaming the computer.
I think that would have been a good question. I'm going to go back to that.
Yeah, we'll get it whirring again. Gaz says, this is one you won't need to compute for. After his performance, does Phil rank Bristol de Mai as a genuine Gold Cup contender?
He's in the mix. Do I think he'll win the race? I think he'll be a big struggle because I think there's better horses at the moment. But he's an interesting one because normally we work on a pound a length, but because of the ground at Haydock at the weekend, I worked on half a pound a length. And so as a result of that, I mean, he's won by 22 lengths. I put him up 12 for that. So he's on 166 now. I think that on balance, the form of Native River is better. We've got him on 168. I think a Hennessy and a Welsh National winner carrying top weight is better form than Bristol de Mai. But Bristol de Mai always looked as if he was going to be a better horse when he went over a trip, and they've now put him over 3 miles, and he's clearly, you know, in the mix. If it's soft, he will be a really interesting candidate. I'd just be slightly worried about him if the ground was a little bit quicker, say good to soft, something like that. Just wonder whether he'd quite have the pace to get, because the great thing about on Saturday, he was up there the whole way, he got a great rhythm, and I just would be a little bit worried on faster ground with the higher quality horses, and obviously Thistlecrack will almost certainly go on ahead, I guess, and as a result of that, you know, you wonder whether Bristol de May will be taken out of his comfort zone, so not sure.
Okay, and Native River, who of course is second favourite for the Gold Cup at the moment. Derek was just saying...
I love that horse.
Yeah, I love that horse too. I think it's absolutely a real rival, because I just think the ride it's going to get is going to be macheted out the front, smashed into every fence by Johnson, who's just going to really get Thistlecrack at it. But anyway, that's all by the by. Derek was just saying he thinks that horse was too well treated in the Welsh National. Got in very lightly. Well,
it was the conditions of the race, wasn't it? Because he didn't get his penalty because of the rule whereby you can't take a weight up above 11 stone 12. You know, penalty can't do that. So was he favoured? But that happens occasionally in anti-post races, early closing races, isn't it? You know, the solution would be don't have early closing races, and I think that would be a real backward step. Do you agree with that? It'd be a backward step not to have early closers.
I agree.
They bring a great deal of interest and enthusiasm. People can get nice prices if they want to, if they take a view. So.
It's good for Irish trainers as well, because they've probably gone up £30 by the time the actual race comes along.
They still win early closers, you know. I don't know.
Sometimes.
The Grand National, was it last year? Did they win?
Well, the Grand National is a law unto itself once it's been fixed.
Did they win that?
Once you've compressed every
horse you can.
Did the
Irish win that last year?
Shockster...
Is that a yes?
I can't remember. Shockster, I was only looking at the trainer. Shockster says the new one gave Klein £8 and a one-length beating last week. Who would the handicapper expect to win off their revised handicap marks? Klein.
Yeah, he went up 5 for that, I believe.
Right.
So we think that's a reasonably fair decision.
Can you look up the horse Sir Lancelot?
Your system's not working.
Oh.
So we can't.
We'll take a break. We'll get the system working. I imagine, Phil, because Phil is not that great on the computer, I imagine you've done something. So I shall undo whatever you have done. Unless, of course, Gordon Elliott has sent a secret virus over. Who knows? We'll be back after this. Back. This is Ask the Handicapper. It's been pretty dramatic during the break trying to sort Phil's computer out, to be fair. It hasn't been an easy... Are you back or not yet?
Sort of semi-back. It's on its way.
Can you search anything at this minute?
Not just for a second,
no,
but I hopefully we'll be able to.
In that case, while it's whirring, let's just have a quick look at the world rankings.
OK.
You've decided that Arrogate is the best horse on planet Earth. And I should say, because obviously we have some banter with Phil, but we should say that at the Longines Awards this week, Phil was literally, you know, penciled out from the audience as a significant man, as the handicapper that counted by the Longines hierarchy. Arrogate, brilliant, of course, in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But everyone's going to look a bit stupid if California Chrome beats him at the weekend.
Well, I don't think they are, really, because I think it's a different distance, it's a different track, so it'd be no surprise to me to see California Chrome win the race. But also, the other thing to remember is, I think the jockey on California Chrome will not be caught napping. People may well have a view on that. I think a lot of people at the time in Santa Anita thought that the jockey on California Chrome was sort of caught napping when Arrogate came to do him in the last sort of 150, 200 yards. So I don't think that'll happen. I think the bigger problem for both of the horses is that the draws are desperate, aren't they? One's in 1 and one's in 12. So I think that's going to be quite a significant difficulty for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and what was fascinating, I mean, California Chrome...
You're just looking at it now.
Yeah.
I mean, California Chrome sort of doesn't quite appear to get home, and Arrogate sort of outstays him. I think over a furlong less, I think that'll be a different case in Gulfstream.
I still don't think it was a good ride on California Chrome either.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think it was.
No.
I think if he could do it again, he'd do it differently, wouldn't he?
And the mare Winks in the mix as well, sensational. Brilliant at Mooney Valley in the Cox Plate. I mean, she just looks like the equivalent of Black Caviar over a bit further.
She looks absolutely fantastic, Winks. I mean, that last run where she came wide off the bend and just sauntered home was just fantastic. You know, I think in Britain we sort of often underestimate the levels in Australia and in Hong Kong, and particularly in Japan. You know, they've got outstanding horses. I mean, our best horse this year, postponed, was joint 8th in the world.
Yeah. And the Arc de Triomphe, which was the best race in the world 12 months ago, this time last year, is no longer anywhere near the best race in the world.
It isn't, you know. I mean, the Breeders' Cup Classic, basically on the back of Arrogant and California Chrome, you know, was dragged up to be the best horse race in the world. In terms of the most quality, solid form, in my view, the most quality, solid form was the Irish Champion Stakes. Because they've gone a real good pace in that race. You know, it's interesting today, we've been talking about how difficult it is for handicappers dealing with, you know, races that are run at a bit of a false pace. The Irish Champions League, I'd be absolutely confident about the result of that. You know, we know that the winner of that, Almanzor, is a really high-quality horse.
Well, you've kind of had the proof.
We've had the proof.
Yeah.
But he's just sauntered clear. I mean, that was a truly run race, and he's a really class act.
Did the ratings of that race fall down because we were relying on fillies or mares in the case of Found and Minding, and that just brings the ratings down because they get the allowance?
It doesn't, because what you do, they get a figure, but then for the purposes of that exercise, you add the fillies allowance back in. Right, so you'd have added £3 back onto them to those fillies in that race. So you know the race isn't disadvantaged because a filly is finishing second or third.
I think personally, and I'm happy to be shouted down, although I think Winks is amazing, I have a feeling that if Winks took on Found in a Cox Plate, she'd struggle to give Found £8. I really do.
Well, a lot of course would depend on the ground. You know, Winks is used to running on pretty...
Well, these ratings don't take ground into
account. No, it's basically the best sustainable performance of a horse on its best ground and over its best...
Who would you back? Winks giving £8 to Found over a mile and a quarter at Ascot?
In the autumn, I think, you know, I'm a big...
Royal Ascot?
I'm a big respecter of Found in the autumn. I think she's a different filly in the autumn than she is in the summer.
OK, so you'd be on Found?
Well, I'm not sure I'd be on, but I would be no surprise for her to win. But I think if you took Found
which
over...
one do you think would win?
I think
getting £8
if you took Found over to Australia and ran in the Cox Plate, I think I'd be on Wings.
OK. So you've got an opinion there. What about Mega Fortune against Neon Wolf?
Do you know why?
£11.
Do you know why I've got an opinion there? Non-handicap.
All right. So you do have opinions, but you have to hide them.
In non-handicaps. Think of what we're trying to do in handicaps. We're trying to give all of the horses an equal chance. For me to come on your TV show and say, this is a handicap and I think that horse is going to beat that, what would that be saying about my team? That we haven't done a very good job.
I know
when
that.
Actually,
I know.
the guys do a really good job.
I know. How often do they actually finish in a straight line? Have you ever had a handicap ever where they finished in a straight line?
Periodically.
You have had a handicap where they finished all in a straight line?
Well, not all of them now. I'd just be happy with 2, to be honest.
So you've never... No, in reality, you have never actually got your job right.
I did have a race a few weeks ago where the first 7 were covered by 6 lengths, a 3-mile chase. I was pretty proud of that.
But actually, in reality, the handicappers have never got it right. You've failed every time. In every race
we spend our whole
failing
academic career searching for nirvana, We never find it.
And you never find it.
Do you want to talk about Sir Lancelot?
I do, because Danny Kubler's been on. The Kublers are great. I think there must be fans of this show, because I love it when trainers or jockeys get on board. That is what this show is all about. Why? That's what I love at the start of an email. Why was Sir Lancelot dropped to 60 after just 2 runs, both not wearing the cheek pieces it wore when winning off 61? What a question.
It's a good question.
And you are baffled. I can see you're lost. You're defeated by the Kubler already.
Yeah, I think that's a real good question. I suspect it's because the form of... Well, no, it can't be because the form of the races worked out. He just run 2 poor races and he was dropped to 60. I think he's got a good point.
So well-handicapped horse, once the cheek pieces go back on?
Yeah, but...
We all lump on Sir Lancelot?
Well, nobody did, because he started 16 to 1. And I think that's an early indication of the way that clearly Mr. Kubler there, you know, he's spotted that and saw it as an opportunity. But the general public there has looked at Sir Lancelot's previous 2 races where he's finished 9th of 10 and 9th of 11 and have dismissed him because he started 16 to 1. But what happened in the race, excuse me, he's won the race at 16 to 1, he's run the race by a neck, and looking at the distances, a neck, a short head, or sort of a nose, 1.5, 1, a short head, half a length. the entire, the 10 of the horses there are covered by 4 lengths, and 4 lengths at Wolverhampton would be something in the region of 3/4 of a second. So there's Michael Harris, one of our younger members of staff, and his race there, the first 10 of 11 are covered by 3/4 of a second. Now you're right, we're not likely to get them all in a line, but that's pretty good, isn't it?
Well, it's okay, I guess, if you're happy
3/4 of a
mediocrity.
second, 10 horses at Wolverhampton. I think that's pretty good.
Okay, can we go back to Forest Behan, please?
Yes,
who you've
the answer
ignored?
is no, it's not going to be raised.
Right. Campiador's 148 in Ireland, by the way.
Okay, well, do you think he's got a chance here then? 154?
Probably not, no.
Oh.
Right.
If he stands up, I think he has.
And it's really frustrating. Someone sent me a long email in, and it had a whole load of words, basically. But it had like a sort of an accompaniment to it, and I can't find it. But it was basically to do with when you're handicapping the Grand National, and you compress the weights. And back in the day, there used to be 24 pounds between, you know, or more. Now there's hardly ever a proper handicap anymore.
Well, back in the day, there used to be 60 or 70 pounds.
Exactly. Fantastic. Why do you compress it? And who are you actually favouring? You are favouring the good horses. Why are you so keen? This was the gist of this email, if I can find it, which is, I will look for it while you're answering my question.
Okay.
Why are you so besotted by a top horse, a Gold Cup type horse, winning the Grand National, rather than the fairy tale?
Well, here's the first thing. Last year, it didn't really happen, did it? I didn't actually have to do any compression last year. There was hardly any compression at all in the race. So the horses that ran in the race last year were pretty much all running off the true marks. So we've been through a phase like that. Who's to say that we won't have a situation this year where I don't do any compression?
Are you under instruction not to do it then?
No,
Has someone had a word?
Absolutely not. No, that's the great thing about UK handicapping. You're left to do what you believe is correct.
How many more Grand Nationals for you, do you think?
Or
After
15,
this show?
15, 20?
50? Do you think on to 100, are you? Right, probably. God, that's not good news for Gordon Elliott. I wanted to ask you...
Well, he has won the Grand National, hasn't he?
Yes.
Has he won one of my
Silver
Grand Nationals?
Birch.
Did it with a Silver Birch?
Yeah.
So if I'm stopping him, I'm not doing a good job, am I, stopping him?
Well, you didn't know then what he was about.
Ah, right.
I think that was either in his first or second season, probably.
Okay.
And
right.
clearly since then, your loathing of him has been created. Okay. Speaking of which, I imagine poor old Danny Kubler now. Did you notice how you go Mr. Kubler? I think you're on the bad list now, Coop, so expect a £10 rise for all your horses.
Yeah, I think he makes a good point there.
I wanted to ask you something, which is not often the case. I usually just react. Has any trainer ever sort of complained about another trainer's horse? Did they ever ring you up and say, look, ours is this, what are you doing with this guy's?
Yeah, and it really irritates me that. I think they should concentrate on their own horses.
Come on, who complains?
Well, I don't think we should mention names.
Of course we should.
Right, but we did have a race this week, where the winner of the race was actually dropped.
Okay.
That probably happens 2 or 3 times a year.
And just which horse was in this race?
Well, we're not going to tell you that. But the winner of the race was dropped. He was dropped by £4.
Right.
And the trainer of that horse phoned up and said, A, we hadn't dropped this horse enough for winning, and B, we should have put the second horse up. And the trainer of the third phoned up, we dropped him £4, and said the same thing.
Okay.
I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I do too. I do. Does that happen very often? And what do you say to the kind of people who do things like that?
Well, I'm very polite, but I try and come up with an answer which basically means I've made that decision about that person's horse and it's really none of your business.
Does it put you off them for the future?
No, you absolutely mustn't do that. You've got to treat every horse with complete equality and fairness. I do that. I'm confident I do that.
Rashan, make a fortune?
But, you know, I really would look this Rashan to come and win. It would be just fantastic, wouldn't it? It'd be the crowning glory of this programme.
Well, he can't come and win, can he? Because the trainer's decided that it's impossible to win.
Well,
you've ruined his dream.
Maybe he can come for the county hurdle.
He'll be probably about 180 by then. Absolutely no chance. Right, let's go back. Oh, I've got so many...
Come on, let's have some emails, mate.
OK, I'm going to try and find those. I just wanted to go back. Can we go back to those world ratings?
OK.
OK, Almanzor.
Yeah, 129.
Just to confirm.
129.
29. Could that have been higher? Or was
you
it
know,
difficult
it was
in relation to the others?
We did have a vote on that. The French handicapper and myself probably wanted him to be higher. But as happens in all of these, you know, big committees like that, everything goes to a vote, and the majority of the world handicappers were happy with him on 129. He's at least a 129, but let's see what happens next year, because isn't it great for a horse like Almanzor? He's going to stay in training. You know, he's the top European horse, and at least the top European horse this year is going to stay in training as a 4-year-old. And you know, I'd be really hopeful that we're talking about him next year as a 33, 4, 5, 6 horse. Who knows? He might even get higher, you know, depending on the opposition he runs against. So I'm a massive Almanzor fan. He's been campaigned brilliantly, and fantastic that he stays in training.
A lot of people will look at Ashin Hikari's mark and just laugh at that.
Well, will they?
They will, yeah, because they don't think he's very good.
He's won the Prix d'Espagne, Group 1 in France by, I think the official margin was either 8 or 10 lengths, something of that region.
No one takes that seriously.
He's done nothing subsequently, right? He's underperformed, but he is a bit quirky, isn't he, to say the least? You know, he's a bit of a nutter. But if you look at the horses behind him, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, they've all gone onwards and upwards. If he hadn't run again, that horse, he would be higher than 127 now, because he'd have been put up collaterally.
Which indirectly, immediately just shows the flaw in the whole system, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't, and it just tells you exactly...
One good run...
And it goes back to Rashan...
You might as well go off to stud with a high rating.
And it goes back to Rashan, right? Here we were in a situation with Ashin Hikari. He had a figure that we put down. There was a bit of a question mark by it, but he ran again subsequently 2 or 3 times, didn't do it, and we brought him down. Rashan, figure with 2 question marks by it, and he's been missing in action.
Well, you know why he's been missing in action, because you killed him.
Well, they didn't know that till this week.
Yeah, but...
No, they didn't know that till this week. Why has he been... Hang on, 4th of November he ran.
How do we know they didn't know?
Because nobody's phoned us up, nobody's contacted us, and that figure was not in the public domain till this week.
OK.
Where's he been?
Final...
Sitting on 139.
Well, possibly. We got 1 minute left of the show. Let's just say the Irish handicapper retired today, and judged by what you feel about his ratings, he should do that.
No, he should not. He's a top man and a really good handicapper.
As you keep saying, but you disagree with all the marks he gives his horses, or at least most of them. If he retired today and you were offered the Irish handicapper's position, how many of the horses do you think you'd put up straight away?
Oh, I'd carry on using the Irish system. Why not? What's wrong with it?
So you'd be happy being £15 wrong?
Well, who says he's 15? But he's absolutely right in Ireland.
But isn't there meant to be a correlation, or is this?
Well, we try and get a correlation, and as you get further into the season, right? At the moment we've got the 3 big festivals to come, and that's where you get the correlation. That's where strands of form come together, and we decide who's high, who's low. Am I too high? Am I too low?
That's fine.
And by the end of the season, we've got agreement on the 140 pluses.
Can we just finally end then with this question?
Yes.
Do you have an individual handicap for horses rated in France?
Well,
no, just yes or no.
Well, we don't have to publish them.
I'll ask the question.
We assess them when we have figures for them, yes.
Individual, away from the French ratings. You have an individual handicap for French horses.
We could produce one, but we don't.
You don't, right? Finally,
we
we've
could
got
produce
that.
one.
No, you don't. Okay.
But we have figures.
But you don't. Do you have one for Germany?
What, German jumpers?
Anything? No, any horse, flat, jumps, whatever it is. Do you have individual handicaps for German horses?
No.
No. Do you have individual handicaps for Italian horses?
No.
No. So, do you have an individual handicap for Irish horses?
On the flat?
Over jumps?
Yes.
Right. But you absolutely think the Irish handicapper does his job?
Well, he does, because look at his races in Ireland.
But no other nation needs it but Ireland. On that bombshell, we thank Phil Smith. He remains the chief. This was Ask the Handicapper.